Welcome to part 4 of the Dynam-ICS Essentials series, component 3, the management characteristics. Before we dive in, let's take a quick walk back through where we've been. Part 1, Type 5 ICS basics, the foundations, the fence fire, the priorities, the typing, and all the legal disclaimer goodness you need to know before using this material. Part 2, the action cycle, how ICS actually flows in the real world, especially in Type 5 and 4 incidents. Part 3, the players and the operational iceberg. Who does what? Why operations builds from the bottom up, and what's happening beneath the surface of that nice, tidy org chart. And here we are, part 4, the management characteristics. These are the principles that make ICS work. They're the glue, the boundaries, the systems thinking, the stuff that keeps incidents from turning into committee meetings. Now, a quick friendly reminder, all the legal and copyright details live in part 1, so if you skip that, maybe go peek at it. And yes, that includes the part where I said, please don't steal my work. I spent years on this. It's much easier to just ask. Seriously, use this material, teach from it, show it to your teams. Just don't rebrand it or package it as your own. That's not cool, and my Boston Terrier will judge you. All right, before we jump into characteristic number 1, let's do a fast recap of part 3 to make sure your mental picture of the ICS players is fresh and ready. Let's roll. Before we dive in, just a reminder of part 3, where we walked you through component 2, the players and the operational iceberg. We broke down the roles, the structure, and that idea that most of the real work sits below the waterline in operations. All right, with that foundation locked in, it's time for the grand finale of Essentials 1. For part 4, Aiko, Aya, Ash, and Isley are going to guide you through the management characteristics, the principles that make the whole system work, along with a handful of practical tips and tricks to help these concepts stick. They'll take it from here, and once they've walked you through the full set of management characteristics, I'll jump back in to close out this 4-part Essentials 1 video series.
Let's talk about the management characteristics, the core principles that keep the incident command system running smoothly. Every one of these characteristics is important, but they don't all apply in the same way or at the same level. That's why Dynam-ICS Training Solutions has studied them carefully and broken them down into 3 categories to make them easier to understand, teach, and apply. Foundational ICS concepts. These are the basics. Things like using common terminology, following chain of command, and respecting span of control. Everyone on an incident should understand and apply these, no exceptions. Command level responsibilities. These are the decision-making tools. Establishing command, managing by objectives, transferring command. These guide how the incident commander leads and maintains direction. And team-based ICS management. These are the coordination tools. Building an IAP, managing resources, maintaining accountability. This is where your incident management team really earns its keep. Together, these 3 categories create the foundation for effective incident management, from the smallest event to the most complex emergency. When everyone understands their part and applies these characteristics consistently, the system runs like it's designed to: clear, coordinated, and adaptable. Environmental to facilities, we've got a level 2 spill in the nutrition corridor, probable dairy-based contaminant, ETA for H-Vector Unit 5 mics, request triage of slip zone parameters.
ICS plain language interpreter. Facilities, housekeeping here. Somebody dropped a jug of milk outside the cafeteria. It's slippery. Can you send a mop and a wet floor sign?
Let's start with the foundational ICS concepts, the things that make the system work smoothly, no matter who's on scene or what kind of incident it is. And the first one on that list, common terminology, one of the most important management characteristics in ICS. In ICS, common terminology means we all speak the same operational language. It's not about dumbing things down. It's about being clear and consistent. Position titles and facility names are plain language. They describe the role or location and shouldn't be changed. An operations section chief is always an operations section chief. The incident command post is always the incident command post. That consistency keeps everyone aligned, no matter where you come from. Agency acronyms are fine if you're only working within your own organization, but the second other agencies or departments get involved, drop them. Not everyone speaks your internal shorthand. ICS acronyms, though, are fair game. They're part of the shared system. Everyone trained in ICS should understand them. That's what makes ICS work across agencies, sectors, and jurisdictions. When we all use the same terminology, we eliminate confusion and improve coordination. Everyone knows who's doing what, where it's happening, and how to plug in. And that brings us back to plain language. Instead of saying, hydrants and calories are on Route 10-4, just say, water and food are on the way. Simple, direct, and clear. Because if people have to stop and translate what you said, you've already lost time. And in incident management, time is the one thing you can't afford to lose. Let's talk about dispatch and deployment, one of the biggest headaches at any incident. Here's the rule. If you weren't requested, don't self-deploy. Showing up unannounced might seem helpful, but in ICS, it actually creates more problems. The incident commander has to track, brief, assign, and account for every person and piece of equipment on site. When people just show up, they disrupt the system, clogging staging areas, duplicating tasks, or worse, putting themselves in danger. If you think about it, ICS depends on control and coordination, not chaos and confusion. That's why we obey dispatch protocols. Resources are requested, dispatched, tracked, and documented before they arrive. It's not about keeping people away. It's about making sure the right people with the right tools arrive at the right time and plug in safely. So remember, don't just roll up because something's burning. Wait for the call, then respond through the system. Let's talk about following the chain of command, one of the simplest concepts in ICS and one of the most important. The chain of command defines who reports to who. It keeps communication clear, accountability strong, and decisions flowing in the right direction. When people skip the chain, jumping over supervisors or freelancing decisions, confusion spreads fast. Messages get lost, tasks get duplicated, and suddenly you hear the classic line, "Nobody told me." By following the chain, information moves up and down in an organized way. Supervisors know what's happening, teams stay informed, and leadership can make decisions based on accurate information. It's not about control, it's about communication. If everyone sticks to their link in the chain, the system works exactly as it's meant to. Unity of command goes hand in hand with the chain of command. If chain of command defines who reports to who, unity of command makes sure you only report to one person. It's the ICS promise that you'll only ever have one boss, one set of directions, one source of accountability. The moment two or three different people start giving orders, confusion takes over. Tasks get missed, priorities clash, and frustration builds fast. Unity of command eliminates that. Everyone knows exactly who they answer to, and supervisors know exactly who's working for them. That clarity keeps the organization efficient, communication clean, and stress levels manageable, especially when the pressure's on.
I've lived in this area for 90 years. I've seen 7 floods, water 30 feet deep in some spots. I'm telling you, it's gonna go down through Smith's Ravine. It ain't gonna go through Banks Channel like you're thinking. You're all wrong. You should listen to me.
In ICS, managing information and intelligence means more than just passing messages. It's about turning raw information into useful intelligence. Information is what's coming in, reports from the field, public updates, safety checks, or even social media posts. But on its own, that's just noise. When that information is verified, organized, and analyzed, it becomes intelligence. And intelligence is what you can base your action plans on. That's why this management characteristic is so important. It's the difference between reacting and making informed decisions. And just as important, it reminds us that not all information should be shared freely. Coffee shop talk, casual updates, or social media posts can cause confusion fast. In ICS, information flows through proper channels, verified, logged, and released by the right people, like the public information officer or the safety officer, depending on the message. When managed right, information becomes one of your strongest tools because good intelligence leads to good plans, and good plans lead to safe, successful outcomes.
When it comes to managing an incident, information is everything, but it only helps if it's accurate, verified, and shared through the right channels. There's a big difference between formal and informal communication. Formal information follows the chain of command, things like task assignments, resource orders, safety messages, or after-action review updates. It's traceable, reliable, and forms the official record of what's happening. Informal communications are just general questions and conversations that take place during the incident. They don't have a direct bearing on the incident or on planning, but they're still valuable. It's important that communication can flow freely. That's how people stay situationally aware and connected. The amount of information you'll deal with also depends on the incident type. A Type 5 incident might only need a few verbal updates, while a Type 1 operation could involve entire intelligence or planning teams analyzing incoming data. And here's the bottom line. Good information turns into intelligence. Intelligence shapes your objectives and strategies, and that's what builds your action plan. No matter the size of the incident, accurate, shared intelligence drives every good decision. Briefings. Don't underestimate them. Briefings are one of the most important tools in ICS. They ensure everyone understands the situation, their role, the plan, and the expectations before anyone starts work. A good briefing saves time, prevents confusion, and builds coordination right from the start. Incident Management Team, IC+G staff, keeps command and general staff aligned on current objectives, priorities, and resource status. Task assignments clarifies who's doing what, where, and when, so everyone knows their tasks and limits. Section level keeps each section working as a unit, ensuring their internal coordination matches the incident objectives. Staff and assistants ensures everyone supporting a unit leader or command staff role understands their delegated responsibilities and reporting expectations. Transfer of command smoothly hands over leadership with full awareness of the current situation, objectives, and ongoing actions. Emergency Operations Center, EOC, synchronizes incident and organizational response, helps align priorities and resource sharing between field and coordination levels. Delegation of authority. A briefing from the authority granting the delegation, outlining what authority is being transferred to whom, IC, UC, or IMT, and under what conditions or limitations. Incoming resources gives new arrivals the critical information they need, safety, assignments, and reporting structure before they join the operation.
All right, team, let's get started. We're now 24 hours into the town's water main failure, and the situation remains active. Operations crews are in the field replacing the damaged section of pipe, and we expect the work to continue well into the evening. Our focus here in the EOC is on coordination, communication, and public information. The community needs clear, consistent updates, especially about water use. Here's what we need to get done today. First, we have to push out the 24-hour water conservation notice to all residents. Communications will draft the public message, short, plain language, and ready for social media, the town website, and a local radio spot. Once drafted, it goes to me for quick review, then to the EOC director for approval before release. Second, we'll prepare a community update bulletin for council and the mayor. It should summarize the status of the repair, safety precautions, and the expected restoration timeline. Include contact info for residents with accessibility or medical needs that might be affected by low pressure. Third, planning needs to track the timeline of repair operations and note any expected impacts to essential services, fire protection, hospitals, care homes, or businesses using high volumes of water. I want that list current before the noon update. We'll do a short coordination check-in with Logistics and Public Works at 11:30 to make sure we have consistent information before anything is released publicly. If you need support materials, use the request forms as usual. Keep documentation clean and time-stamped. We'll need this later for after-action reporting. That's the plan for this morning. Keep communication tight, share updates as they come in, and remember, our job here is to help the public understand what's happening, not to overwhelm them with detail. Questions before we get to work?
Utilize a modular organization. ICS is designed to grow when needed and shrink when it's not. It builds up and scales down based on the needs of the incident. At a small incident, one person, the incident commander, might handle everything. As it grows, new positions are added, like puzzle pieces, to maintain safety, coordination, and control. Roles such as safety officer, resource unit leader, or specialized teams can be activated when the workload increases. When the job starts winding down, those same positions and resources can be demobilized, sent back to their home base. That keeps people available for other work, prevents unnecessary costs, and avoids cluttering your organization with roles you don't need anymore. Whether you're building up or scaling down, using the modular concept is just smart incident management. It's efficient, effective, and makes the best use of your resources every time. Let's talk about span of control, one of the most practical and misunderstood concepts in ICS. We've all heard it in ICS training. A supervisor should manage between 3 and 7 people, optimally 5. Everyone nods, writes it down, and moves on. But here's the truth. That range is a guideline, not a law. It doesn't mean 8 is illegal or 2 is a crime. It means know your limits, know your team, and know what's manageable in the moment. Now, here's how to think about it. Less than 3 isn't about brain power. It's about efficiency. Do you really need one person supervising 1 or 2 people? Or can you reorganize and make better use of your resources? Above 7, that's where brain capacity becomes the issue. Can someone effectively track, support, and communicate with that many people in a fast-moving incident? That range actually comes from 1950s psychology, not the fire hall. Psychologist George Miller found that most people can handle about 5 to 9 chunks of information before their brain starts to short circuit. ICS adapted that research and found that under pressure, 5 is the sweet spot, the most effective number of people a supervisor can manage. So sure, you might handle 9 calm sandbaggers with no problem, but 4 cranky contractors, 2 dogs, a cat, and a generator on fire? Yeah, you're done. The real lesson? Span of control equals span of cognitive capacity and the smart use of resources. Moving into command level responsibilities, let's talk about what it really means to be in charge. These characteristics focus on the responsibilities of the person or people leading the incident. They're the decision makers, setting direction, establishing priorities, and maintaining control as things evolve. This falls right under step 2 of the action cycle, recognition. It's the moment where someone realizes, okay, this is happening, and I need to take charge. Out of all the management characteristics, this one, establish initial command, is the most important. Because without clear leadership, the scene quickly turns into a freelancing nightmare. Everyone starts doing their own thing, communication breaks down, and safety goes out the window. When you assume command, you're not just taking charge, you're taking responsibility for safety, strategy, communication, and coordination. That's why the very first move in any incident is simple but critical. Establish command and make sure everyone knows who's in charge.
When you establish command, you're stepping into leadership. But the delegation of authority, or DOA, is what gives that leadership its legal backbone. It's your license to lead. The DOA is a formal authorization that gives someone the legal power to act on behalf of the organization during an incident. It clearly defines who's in charge, what they can do, and any limits on that authority. For Type 5 and Type 4 incidents, it's usually authorized through policy, bylaw, or even your emergency response plan, which has been formally adopted through policy. You don't always need a piece of paper, but you do need that foundation of authority behind you. Now, we've all seen it in the news. A fire department responds to a cottage country house fire, but they stand there and watch it burn. Everyone says, how could they just let that happen? Well, usually the end result is simple. They didn't have the authority to act on that property. And that's when you hear people say, well, I would have just done what's right. Okay, but think about this. You're the fire chief. You go ahead anyway, and one of your firefighters gets injured or worse. What's the first question the lawyers and the judge are going to ask you? Did you have the authority to be there? That's why this matters. Establishing command is taking charge, but a delegation of authority, your DOA, is what makes it legal to stay in charge. The ICS Form 201, the Incident Briefing Form, is one of the most practical and important tools in incident management. It's usually completed by the incident commander once the immediate chaos settles. When the task assignments are rolling, things are under control, and the IC finally gets that first smoke and coffee. That's when they sit down, pull out the crinkled Form 201 page, and start filling it out. The 201 serves a few key purposes. It's a briefing tool, a formal record of what's been done so far, and an unofficial action plan for the first few hours of an incident. It includes the basics: incident information, maps, situation summary, objectives, current and planned actions, organization chart, and a resource summary. It's the snapshot of what's happening right now. The beauty of the 201 is that it's flexible. You can update it as often as needed, depending on how the incident evolves. And if you don't have a 201 handy, use a napkin, a notepad, or even a pizza box lid. Just make sure it's documented. The only thing that keeps a 201 from being a full incident action plan is the missing pieces. There's no place for a safety message, medical plan, or communications plan. So write them on the back of the page, or the other side of that pizza lid. And presto, you've just built your first IAP.
Once command has been established, the next step is to set up a command post, your ICP. This is your base of operations, the spot where command decisions are made, communication flows, and coordination happens. At smaller incidents, that might be as simple as the hood of a truck, the tailgate, or even a park bench. As things grow, it could move into a vehicle, a lunchroom, or any space that's safe, quiet enough to think, and easy for others to find. The key is location and visibility. Everyone needs to know where the incident commander is and where to go for information, assignments, or direction. A well-marked command post brings structure and calm to chaos. It shows leadership is in place and the system is working.
All workers be advised. Laura Jenkins has command of the Smith Street water break incident. I can be reached at 761-505-6824. The command post is set up at my silver Toyota pickup with the green light, located at Smith Street and Front Avenue. Operations are on Channel 2. Staging is in the co-op parking lot.
This is where everything we've talked about starts coming together. Managing by objectives isn't just paperwork. It's how you save lives, stabilize incidents, and protect property and the environment. This is step 4 of the action cycle, the planning phase, where recognition and assessment turn into direction and action. But here's the key: you can't build strong objectives without solid information and intelligence. It all ties back. If your intel is weak, your objectives will be off target, and that can cost time, resources, or worse. At Dynam-ICS Training Solutions, we teach that every good objective passes the trust test, a mnemonic we created right here at Dynam-ICS. T, task-oriented. It states clearly what needs to be done. R, realistic. It's achievable with the people and tools you actually have. U, understandable. Everyone on the team can read it and know exactly what's expected. S, safe and specific. It's focused, measurable, and ensures the safety of personnel. T, time of completion. It identifies when the task must be completed. When you build objectives this way, you can truly trust your plan. Then come your strategies, the how behind each objective. Together, objectives and strategies tell you what resources you'll need, what tasks must happen, and how you'll manage them safely and efficiently. And that's what forms your action plan, the heartbeat of the incident. Now, here's where it all connects to the ultimate priorities of emergency management. Every objective, Every strategy and every task must align with the three golden priorities: saving lives, stabilizing the incident, and protecting property and the environment. That's not just ICS theory. That's the reason ICS exists. When you manage by objectives that are built on intelligence, structured with strategy, and grounded in those three priorities, you're not just managing an incident, you're leading it with purpose, protecting your people, your community, and your environment. That's managing by objectives. That's Dynam-ICS.
When it comes to management by objectives, this is where your action cycle really earns its keep and walks hand in hand with MBO. Start with step 3, assessment. Figure out what problems need to be fixed, what's driving your response. These are your why we're here moments. Then move into step 4, the planning process. Develop your objectives, what you want to accomplish, and your strategies, how you plan to do it. Sometimes you'll get lucky. One solid strategy can fix more than one problem. Other times you'll be staring at a mess that needs to be broken down into smaller, manageable pieces. And remember the golden rule of ICS planning. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Ha ha ha! Once you trust your objectives and your strategies are clear, you're ready for the resource step. That's where O plus S equals resources. Look at each objective and its associated strategy and ask yourself, what do I need for resources to accomplish this? Once you have your list of resources, compare what you have to what you need. Order what you need and use what you have until the rest show up. Lastly, step 5, assignments and briefings. In order to assign tasks, you actually have to build, even if it's in your head, a solid task assignment. That's where you use O plus SR equals task assignments. Line up each objective, its strategies, and the associated resources, and your task assignments pretty much write themselves. Call in your resources, brief them on their specific assignment, and then cut them loose to get the job done. This process connects every part of incident management. You identify the trigger, develop objectives and strategies, plan your resources, and assign the work. All to save lives, stabilize the incident, and protect property and the environment. That's management by objectives, and it's the backbone of ICS. Clear, logical, actionable, and best of all, it's humanity's way of problem solving, and it's worked your whole life. When building solid, attainable objectives, Dynam-ICS developed the trust test, a simple way to make sure every objective has all the components it needs for successful operational assignments. Each objective should be trust, T, task-oriented, R, realistic, U, understandable, S, safe and specific, T, time of completion. If your objective passes the trust test, it's ready to go. Because in ICS, if you can't explain what's being done, how, safely, and by when, it's not an objective, it's a wish list. People need clear instruction when they're being tasked, and these trust characteristics provide exactly that. Trust, a Dynam-ICS Training Solutions original mnemonic.
Hi, I'm A. Isley, and here is my top 10 list for determining strategies. Let's start with what a strategy actually is. A strategy is your overall game plan, your big picture approach to achieving an objective. It's not about who's digging the hole or holding the wrench. It's the how behind the what. Think of it as the GPS route that gets you to your objective, not the turn signal you use along the way. Now let's get into my top 10. 1. Strategies should support that end result, the objective. If your strategy doesn't directly move you toward your objective, it's just extra noise. Don't polish the hood ornament when the car doesn't run. 2. Strategies must work within your limitations. You can't plan to fly if all you've got are boots and a shovel. Be realistic about time, people, equipment, and resources, and work smart inside that box. 3. Build your strategies in logical order. Do the right things in the right sequence. It's amazing how often people jump to step 4 before step 1. It's like trying to ice the cake before you've baked it. 4. Strategies are your overall approach, not the nitty-gritty task details. You're not writing a to-do list here. Control the leak using containment and rerouting is a strategy. Open the valve and tighten the flange is a task. Keep your eyes at 30,000 feet, not in the toolbox. 5. Challenge your idea. What could go wrong? Ask the what-if questions before reality answers them for you. A good strategy can handle a few bumps. A bad one blows apart on the first pothole. 6. Has this happened before? If yes, steal the good stuff. There's no prize for reinventing the wheel. If someone already figured out a good strategy, borrow it, adjust it, and own it. Experience is free tuition if you're paying attention. 7. Map it out visually. Draw it, sketch it, scribble it, whatever helps you see the flow. Strategies often make a lot more sense when you can actually see how they connect. Stick figures are acceptable. This isn't an art contest. 8. Reverse engineer the strategy that would have led to that result. If you know what success looks like, work backward. Ask yourself, what would have needed to happen for that to work? It's like detective work, but without the trench coat. 9. If it's more than a sentence to explain, it might be too complex. If you need a PowerPoint to explain your strategy, it's probably a tactic disguised as one. Simple strategies are easier to remember, explain, and execute. 10. Your strategy must align with your priorities. If not, wrong strategy. If it doesn't support life safety, incident stabilization, or property conservation, throw it out. Strategies that ignore priorities tend to make the situation worse, not better. And that's my top 10 list for building solid, realistic strategies. Keep it simple, keep it logical, and make sure it actually supports your objective. The best strategy isn't the flashiest one. It's the one that works when things get messy.
At some point during an incident, command may need to transfer, and when it does, it must be done properly. The transfer of command ensures that incoming leadership knows exactly what's been done, what's still in progress, and what resources are on scene. It's not a quick handshake. It's a structured, formal process built to maintain control, continuity, and accountability. It's usually done face-to-face whenever possible and includes a briefing using the ICS 201 or equivalent notes. So the new incident commander has the full picture before assuming command. And remember, a transfer of command isn't just about authority. It's about ensuring no information, resources, or responsibilities fall through the cracks during the change. Clear command transitions keep incidents stable, safe, and on track.
Good afternoon, Chris. I'll give you a quick rundown before you take over at 3 o'clock. We're about 24 hours into this water main failure incident. The break happened on Smith Street and caused a major washout and partial trench collapse. Crews isolated the damaged section early this morning and are making steady progress on replacement work. We have 8 municipal workers on site, along with 2 contracted companies running the heavy equipment. The team lead at the site is Fran Hastings. Her number is 761-505-6124. All communications are on Channel 2, and if there's a medical emergency, call 761-505-9922. Response time for EMS is about 2 minutes. Safety oversight is active, and all trench work is being done under full workplace safety and health compliance. The shoring has been inspected and approved, and spotters are posted for all below-grade activity. Our current objectives are: 1. Replace the damaged section of water main by 9 p.m. The new pipe is staged and ready once trench prep is complete. 2. Notify the community of a 24-hour water conservation advisory, effective immediately. The town's EOC is handling that communication through local channels. 3. Keep Smith Street closed until repairs and surface restoration are complete. Barricades are in place at Smith and Byers on the north side and Smith and Channing on the south. Only authorized personnel are permitted inside the work zone. 4. Support the work crews as needed. Logistics has a rest area set up near the east barricade with lighting, water, and first aid supplies. Ensure rotations continue through the evening. Weather's good, clear skies, light wind, but the ground's still saturated, so pumps are running to keep the trench dry. If we stay on track, the new pipe should be in and pressure tested by 9 tonight, with backfilling overnight and Smith Street reopening sometime tomorrow afternoon. All documentation and maps are updated in the planning folder, and finance has pre-cleared contract authorizations if more equipment is needed. That's where we're at. Are you still good to take command at 3 p.m.? I'll stay on site until the transition's complete. Thanks, Chris. It's a solid operation right now. Let's keep it moving safely and efficiently through the evening. Any questions?
Sometimes more than one agency has jurisdiction, responsibility, or authority at an incident. That's when unified command comes into play. Instead of battling for control, agencies work together under one coordinated action plan. They share objectives, resources, and strategies, but still maintain their own internal authority. You likely won't see much unified command in a Type 5 incident. Those are usually small, like single agency operations. But as you move into Type 4, where outside resources start showing up, unified command starts to appear. And once you hit Type 3 and larger incidents, it becomes far more common because multiple agencies now have a stake in the response and recovery. The goal isn't about who's in charge, it's about collaboration, communication, and one unified direction. Everyone at the table agrees on one plan, one set of objectives, and one voice for the incident. When unified command works well, it turns potential turf wars into teamwork. And that's what effective incident management is all about. Now we're moving into the team-based side of the management characteristics. And this is where the Incident Action Plan, or IAP, becomes the backbone of organized response. In Type 5 and 4 incidents, your action plan is simple, verbal, quick, and focused on what's happening right now. But when the incident grows into a Type 3 or larger, that plan becomes written. A written IAP is a formal, structured document that outlines what the team will accomplish in the next operational period, whether that's a few hours from now or the next day. It includes your objectives, strategies, safety messages, communications, assignments, and resource use. Basically, the full game plan. Behind that IAP is a formal planning cycle, which actually mirrors the Dynam-ICS action cycle. The difference is the planning cycle focuses on what's coming next, while current operations are still underway. This cycle includes pre-scheduled meetings for the command and general staff, usually facilitated by the planning section chief, like the command and general staff meeting, the tactics meeting, and the planning meeting. Each one builds another layer of the upcoming plan, ensuring that when the next operational period starts, everyone knows what's happening, who's doing it, and how it all connects. So while today's team is out there executing the current plan, the next one is already being built. That's what separates reactive response from proactive leadership, and it's what keeps incidents organized, safe, and moving forward. Every incident, big or small, needs a communications plan. It's not optional. It's the glue that holds everything together. Without clear communication, even the best strategies fall apart. People duplicate efforts, tasks get missed, and safety goes out the window. Now, your comms plan doesn't have to be complicated. It just has to be intentional. Any assortment of communication systems can be used at any time. You might have a landline to the EOC, cell phones back to head office, VHF radios in the field, and maybe even a satellite phone for remote or northern regions. The goal is simple. Make sure everyone can talk, reliably and safely. As the incident grows, integrated communications becomes vital. That means ensuring all agencies, departments, or companies can connect through a shared or compatible system. A good comms plan flows information up, down, and sideways, keeping command informed, operations connected, and everyone working toward the same objectives. Because at the end of the day, if you can't communicate, you can't coordinate. And if you can't coordinate, you can't command.
Good morning, everyone. Before we start the day, here's a quick rundown of the communication plan for the water main repair on Smith Street. All field communications will be on Channel 2. That's our working channel for coordination between municipal crews and the contractors. Keep chatter clear and professional. Use it for operational updates only. If you need to reach the EOC, call 761-505-8810. That's the direct line into the Emergency Operations Center. They're tracking public notifications, logistics requests, and any supply issues that come up during the shift. For medical emergencies, call 761-505-9922. That number connects straight to local dispatch, and the ambulance can reach this site in about 2 minutes. If you call, make sure someone meets them at the barricade to guide them in. The site lead today is Fran Hastings, and she's the primary contact for coordination on the ground. Her number is 761-505-6124. Report through Fran if you need equipment, materials, or task updates. Command and planning will stay linked with the EOC through the day to make sure the public gets updates about water restrictions and the repair timeline. Keep radios on, stay alert, and report any safety concerns immediately. That's your comms plan for this operational period. Command out.
Your resources are the bread and butter of any response. Without them, nothing gets done. Managing resources means more than just knowing who's on scene. It's about accounting for what you have, ordering what you need, and releasing what you're done with in a way that's safe, efficient, and documented. Have a clear ordering and dispatch process so resources get to the right place at the right time. Once they're there, take care of them. Make sure they're fed, rested, supported, and have medical coverage if needed. And don't forget timely demobilization. When a resource's job is done, send them home safely and free up that cost. Remember, well-managed resources mean well-managed operations. If you take care of your people and equipment, they'll take care of the incident. Accountability is the heartbeat of ICS management. It's what keeps a well-oiled team from turning into organized chaos. At its core, accountability means knowing who's doing what, where, and under whose authority. That starts with check-in. Every person, piece of equipment, or resource must be logged and tracked. It sounds simple, but that one act sets the foundation for safe, coordinated operations. If we don't know who's on scene, we can't protect them, support them, or replace them when they need rest. But accountability doesn't stop at the sign-in sheet. It's woven through every management characteristic in ICS. Maintaining the IAP, your incident action plan, is accountability. Following unity of command and chain of command is accountability. Using plain language, respecting span of control, and sharing information clearly. All of these keep people aligned and the plan consistent. Think of it this way. Accountability is what connects leadership to the responders on the ground. Command owes it to the team to make sure everyone has the direction, information, and resources they need, safely and efficiently. And the team owes it back by following the system and reporting accurately. In the end, accountability builds trust, and trust builds performance. It's not about micromanagement. It's about knowing that every piece of the operation is being looked after, from the big picture plan to the person on the end of the hose, keyboard, or wrench. So when you hear ensure accountability in ICS, remember, it's not just a rule, it's a responsibility.
Pre-planning means getting your ducks in a row before the sirens start. It's the work you do long before an incident, so when things go sideways, you already know who's doing what, where, and with whose support. It's not just paperwork, it's preparedness on paper. Emergency response plans, ERPs. Most agencies have developed ERPs that are formally adopted by policy. These documents lay out your organization's response structure, activation triggers, and communication flow. They identify roles, responsibilities, and key contacts, so you're not reinventing the wheel in the middle of chaos. A solid ERP gives your team a shared map to follow when stress levels spike. Policies and procedures. These are the operating rules, the how we do business side of response. They make sure actions taken under pressure are still legal, safe, and consistent with your organization's expectations. Policies define authority, procedures define sequence. Together, they keep response decisions within reason, even when the scene is anything but reasonable. Mutual aid agreements. Mutual aid agreements are partnerships between two or more agencies to share resources, people, time, and equipment without exchanging money. Think of them as you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours deals. They're built on trust and reciprocity. The idea is that when your neighbor needs help, you go, and when you need help, they come. These agreements work best when they're written clearly and revisited regularly. MOUs, fee-for-service, and cost-sharing agreements. These are the formal cousins of mutual aid. When resources or services come with a cost, fuel, specialized equipment, personnel overtime, you need a written understanding that spells out who pays, how much, and when. Memorandums of Understanding, MOUs, and cost-sharing agreements prevent financial surprises and keep cooperation professional instead of personal. At the end of the day, pre-planning is the difference between leading with confidence and scrambling for solutions. The best time to plan is before the incident. Know your resources, test your agreements, and keep your ERP up to date. Because if it's buried under a layer of dust, you're already behind the ball.
Hi, this is Daniel from the town of Riverbend. I'm calling about the Smith Street water break. I'm just looking at our emergency response plan here, and it notes we have an MOU with Baker Farms for the use of your high-volume pump during municipal emergencies. I'm calling to see if that pump is available and if we could have access to it for the next 2 days while we manage this break. If that works on your end, just let me know what the pickup arrangements are and if there's anything you need from us before we put it into service. Thanks. Really appreciate the help.
The ICS spiral happens when we start ignoring the system that was designed to keep us out of chaos. It usually begins small, a skipped briefing, an unclear objective, or someone deciding we don't need ICS for this one. Before you know it, communication breaks down, roles blur, and the incident starts to unravel. The truth is, ICS doesn't fail. People fail to use it. And sometimes all it takes is one unchecked ego or one person deciding to go rogue to send a good response spinning. But the spiral isn't unstoppable. You can break it. Train your team so they understand the system, not just the forms. Respect the roles. Everyone has a job for a reason. Don't skip the basics. Briefings, check-ins, accountability, comms, they're the glue that holds the plan together. Trust the system. ICS works if you let it. And most importantly, speak ICS fluently and know when you're out of your depth. That's not weakness, that's leadership. Because once an incident starts spiraling, it's hard to pull it back. But when your team knows and trusts ICS, you won't need to. You'll stop the spin before it starts. Here's the deal. If your emergency response plan says you use ICS, then legally, every response, every incident, and every activation should follow that system. The same goes for your policies and procedures. Once it's written, approved, and adopted, it's no longer optional. It's policy, and that makes it law within your organization. ICS only works when you use the whole system, not just the parts you like. And that system is built around 3 core components: the action cycle, the players, and the management characteristics. They work together. One drives action, one defines structure, and one sets the standards for how teams function and communicate. Leave one out, and you're halfway to confusion. And when it comes to documentation, remember this: if you've dated it and signed it, it's a legal document. It might not look very professional if it's written on a napkin or the back of a pizza box lid, but it'll still hold up in court. What matters is that it shows how you made your decisions, why you made them, and that you followed your training and the ICS system you committed to using. Because when things get reviewed after the fact, saying we use ICS won't mean much. But saying we did use ICS, here's how we applied it, the decisions we made based on our training and experience, and the documentation to prove it. That's what stands up. There are no ICS police. But trust me, there are some really good ICS lawyers. Here's the thing. ICS isn't something you use like a tool in a toolbox. It's a system, a living, scalable process designed to grow with the incident and the people managing it. When you only use ICS, you're checking boxes. When you apply ICS, you're managing smart. At the start of an incident, don't worry about building a full org chart. Just assign duties. Someone takes command, someone looks after safety, someone handles communications, someone documents what's happening. Keep it simple. The system will grow with you. As the incident expands in size or complexity, those duties will naturally turn into positions. You'll move from a few people doing everything to a team that's structured, specialized, and coordinated. That's ICS scaling the way it was designed to. And that's where the action cycle evolves into the planning cycle. Early on, it's all about reacting, assessing, planning, and doing fast. But as things stabilize and complexity increases, that loop matures into structured planning, objectives, strategies, tactics, and operational periods. You shift from managing moments to managing operations. ICS thrives when all three parts of the system work together. The action cycle, your rhythm of response. The players, your team, each with defined roles. The management characteristics, the rules that keep it all running smoothly. So stop trying to use ICS like a set of forms. Start applying ICS as a full system, one that scales, adapts, and delivers order when things start to unravel. That's when you'll see why it's not just a command system, it's a leadership system. All right, Incident Commander, this is where the rubber meets the road. These 10 steps are your blueprint for bringing order to the chaos and keeping control when things start moving fast. Step 1. Know your authority. Act within your emergency response plan and your organization's policies. That's what gives you the right and the responsibility to take command. Step 2. Establish command and make the scene safe. You can't lead effectively in unsafe conditions. Secure the scene first. People before paperwork. Step 3. Perform your assessment. What's happening, what's threatened, and what needs immediate attention. This is your ICS moment. Saving lives, stabilizing the incident, and protecting property and the environment. That's your top 3 priority filter every single time. Step 4. Build your action plan. Identify your trusted objectives, decide on strategies, determine your resource requirements, and outline the tasks needed to make it happen. Don't overcomplicate it. Clarity beats complexity every time. Step 5. Confirm your communications, safety, and medical plans. Everyone on scene should know who to talk to, how to stay safe, and what to do if something goes wrong. Step 6. Request additional resources if you need them, and establish a resource staging area early. That's where you keep all the ready but not currently used resources. You can't control what you can't track. Step 7. Assign tasks that line up with your action plan and your team's capabilities. Match the task to the skill. It's how you keep efficiency high and risk low. Step 8. Document everything. Whether it's in a notebook, on a 201 form, or the back of a pizza box. If it's dated and signed, it's a legal record. Step 9. Evaluate progress. Don't assume things are fine just because they were fine 10 minutes ago. Continuous reassessment keeps you ahead of the incident. Step 10. Plan your next steps. ICS is a cycle, not a checklist. Loop back to step 3, reassess, adjust, and keep the operation moving forward. Follow the loop, trust the system, and stay proactive. That's how small problems stay small, and big ones never get the chance to spiral out of control.
All right, let's talk about one of the most misunderstood relationships in emergency management, the one between the Incident Command Post, ICP, and the Emergency Coordination Center, ECC. Now, you'll still hear people say EOC, Emergency Operations Center, but honestly, that's a bit of a misnomer. These folks aren't operating anything. They're the Emergency Coordination Center for a reason. They coordinate, they support, and they keep the wheels turning while the IC manages the actual incident. Think of it like this. The ICP is where the action happens. The ECC is the pit crew, keeping the car fueled, funded, and facing the right direction. The ECC is your off-site hub where the bigger picture lives. Support for logistics, support for policy, finance, and multi-agency coordination. While the IC is out there making fast tactical decisions, the ECC is making sure resources, approvals, and information flow are lining up behind them. They support the incident by finding and moving resources, coordinating mutual aid, handling the money and paperwork, keeping leadership informed, and making sure regular operations don't fall apart while everyone's dealing with the incident. They're the behind-the-scenes crew, making sure command can actually command. Now, about that dotted line you'll see between the IC and the ECC on an org chart, that's not decoration. It means works with or communicates closely with. It does not mean reports to. A solid line means command. A dotted line means cooperation. The IC doesn't take orders from the ECC, and the ECC doesn't boss around the IC. It's a partnership, not a power struggle. At a minimum, the ECC will be run by the ECC director. Sometimes that's a one-person show. One person supporting the front line and wearing every hat in the closet. Just like the IC, the ECC director does it all until the need to delegate kicks in. The ECC may include support for or even assume the roles of PIO and liaison, and possibly planning, logistics, and finance admin if needed, plus technical specialists like mapping, IT, infrastructure, or environmental folks. Sometimes they even have an ICS nerd, specialist, who helps keep the coordination side aligned with what's happening on scene. And hey, if an ECC is established, make sure they're on your communications plan. They're part of your system, not an audience watching from the sidelines. You won't see an ECC for a small Type 5 incident. That's overkill. You might get a small one for a Type 4, but once things tip into Type 3, expect the ECC to fire up in a hurry, phones ringing, coffee brewing, and whiteboards multiplying. Their size grows right alongside your incident's complexity. In summary, the IC and ECC are two sides of the same coin. The IC runs operations, the ECC keeps the operation running. So keep that dotted line alive and well. Communicate, collaborate, and remember, the ECC is there to back you up, not boss you around. Because when command and coordination work with each other, the system hums, the chaos calms, and you just might make it through the day without pulling your hair out. Now, before we move on, let's take a quick look at the AHJ, the authority having jurisdiction. Both the ECC and the incident commander report directly to whatever AHJ has given them their delegation of authority. In a Type 5 incident, you probably won't see an ECC activated at all. But once you get into the higher end of Type 4 incidents, that's where the potential for an ECC really starts. So we're introducing the concept now. The IC and the ECC might report to the same AHJ, or they might each report to different AHJs, depending on the incident and who owns which part of the problem. Either way, remember this key point. The ECC and the IC are lateral partners. Neither one reports to the other, but they communicate constantly, share information, and support each other throughout the incident. That relationship becomes more and more important as incident complexity grows.
All right, let's take a quick walk back through everything we covered in Part 4, the management characteristics and all the bonus tips that help the system actually work in real life. 1. Management characteristics. We kick things off with the core principles that hold ICS together: unity of command, common terminology, modular organization, span of control, and all the pieces that make this system predictable under pressure. 2. Information gathering and sharing. We talked about how good decisions come from good information, and how ICS relies on structured, purposeful information flow to avoid guesswork and confusion. 3. Briefings. You saw why briefings are the glue of ICS: short, purposeful, and consistent. They keep everyone aligned and eliminate the "I thought they were doing that" problem. And 4. Delegation of authority. We covered why the IC needs clear authority to act, and how delegation of authority creates legitimacy, clarity, and boundaries for the response. Number 5, ICS Form 201, Incident Briefing and Documentation. You got introduced to the 201 as the first real snapshot of an incident, capturing what's known, what's been done, and what needs to happen next. Even in Type 5 and 4 incidents, the idea of the Form 201, or a pizza box lid for that matter, is still critical documentation to capture and communicate the incident picture. Number 6, Management by Objectives. We explored how to build meaningful objectives by walking you through how to trust your objectives, and looked at practical strategy tips that support your objectives so they are achievable instead of wishful thinking. 7, Pre-planning. We reinforced that the best time to prepare is before the emergency. Reviewing your ERP, understanding your risks, and knowing your resources, and to use these documents for your initial actions of the incident. 8, the spiral of ICS. You learned how the use of ICS can spiral out of control unless you respect it by practicing and preparing for it. ICS doesn't fail. It's the people who fail. 9, commit or quit. A reminder that ICS needs engaged responders. Either commit to the process or step aside so others can manage effectively. Remember, there are good lawyers out there. 10, stop using ICS and start applying ICS. A big mindset shift. ICS isn't a binder or a form. It's a way of thinking. Applying ICS means using the concepts instinctively, not mechanically. 11, on-scene initial actions. We walked through those early moments on scene, assuming command, setting up communications, establishing a location, and creating just enough structure to keep things safe and moving. 12. Relationship between IC, ECC, and AHJ. Finally, we clarified how the incident commander, the ECC, and the authority having jurisdiction interact. Lateral partners, clear communication and reporting lines, and critical information flow. And with that, you've completed Part 4, the final chapter of the Essentials 1 Type 5 series. So I'm going to hand things over to Rebel Mark to close out this 4-part program, wrap up what you've learned, and talk about where we go next. Rebel Mark, take it away.
All right, folks, this is it. You've officially reached the end of the Dynam-ICS Essentials 1 Type 5 series. First off, thank you for hanging in there with me, with Ash, Idea, Ico, and Isley. I know ICS can be about as dry as a 3-day-old donut if it's taught the wrong way, and my hope is we took at least some of that dryness out and made it real, practical, and maybe even a little bit fun. A quick reminder on the legalities. These videos are free to use as a training resource for your organization. Show them in staff meetings, use them as pre-study, build discussion around them. That's exactly why I made them. What you can't do is download this content, rebrand it, and resell it as your own commercial product. That's not cool, and it's definitely not allowed. What you've just watched is the actual content I use when I teach ICS, whether I'm doing virtual delivery or face-to-face instruction. I specialize in non-emergency service agencies, public works, utilities, health, education, industry, First Nations, municipal departments, all the folks who rarely get ICS training designed specifically for them. Using this material as a pre-study before a live course lets me spend far less time lecturing and far more time applying ICS through activities and scenarios. When I'm in the classroom, we still review each topic, but more as a group discussion than a formal lecture. That's where the real learning happens. Now, a lot of people ask, why did you put all this out there for free? Couple of reasons. Yes, it's good marketing. Let's be honest. Of course it is. I'm retired and ICS is in my veins. I've got the time, and this is how I give back. I've always felt there had to be a better way to teach ICS. Less script, more thinking. Less pain, more usefulness. And sure, maybe I'll pick up some work along the way, teaching, advising, reviewing ERPs, helping agencies modernize their approach to ICS. I'm okay with that. This is also your heads up that Essentials 2, Type 4 incidents, and Essentials 3, Type 3 planning cycle are on the way. My goal is to start rolling those out in the first quarter of 2026. Keep an eye on LinkedIn and the other socials for that announcement. If you've enjoyed this series, you want more, or you need help figuring out the best ICS training path for your agency, don't hesitate to reach out. Scan the QR codes on the slide, track me down on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, or find Mark, the ICS Rebel blog. And I do have one favor to ask. If you use these videos as part of your agency's training, throw a short post up on LinkedIn or your social platform of choice, give Dynam-ICS Training Solutions a mention, and tag me, Rebel Mark. It helps more people find this content, and it tells me these hours behind the mic were worth it. Most of all, I hope this series helped you see that ICS doesn't have to be mysterious, miserable, or reserved for firefighters in big red trucks. It's a decision-making and coordination system that belongs to you too. Enjoy the material, share it with your team, and don't forget, if you're not laughing, you're not learning. This is Rebel Mark on behalf of Ash, Iden, Aya, Ico, and Isley. Signing off from Essentials 1 Type 5. See you in Essentials 2.